What if the plainest green glass bowl in your cupboard, the one you have washed 1,000 times without a second thought, quietly glows in the dark and is worth more than everything else on that shelf combined? 10 pieces of old Depression glass have sold for hundreds, some for well over $1,000, and one of them is a pattern so familiar your grandmother almost certainly owned it. It was given away free, packed in oatmeal boxes, and handed out at gas stations, which is exactly why nobody thinks it is worth anything. Tonight, we are going to change that. Let us find out if a small fortune is sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now, hiding behind a pattern you have walked past your whole life. Here is the truth most people never hear. Depression glass was cheap on purpose. Between roughly 1929 and 1939, more than 20 American glass companies pressed out colorful, machine-made glassware and practically gave it away. Movie theaters gave you a plate on dish night. A sack of flour hid a saucer at the bottom. Because it was free, people assume it is worthless, and most of it, honestly, is. A common green plate sells for $5, but value in this glass does not live in the fact that it is old. It lives in the exact pattern, the color, the specific piece, and whether the lid survived. Get those 4 things right, and a bowl that cost a penny in 1932 can outprice a piece of fine jewelry. Let me be honest, your glass is almost certainly not a museum piece, but the gap between a $5 plate and a $1,500 one hides in plain sight, and you can learn to see it tonight. And the strangest part, the piece that might be worth the most could be glowing in your cabinet right now without you knowing. Number 10, American Sweetheart. If you have a delicate plate in the softest pink or in a pale glowing white with a faint rainbow sheen at the rim, you might think it is too plain to matter. Look closer. American Sweetheart was made by Macbeth Evans from 1930 to 1936 in that pale white they called Monax and in pink. It is so thin that survivors in perfect shape are genuinely rare. A pink water pitcher in perfect condition, no chips, no cracks, sold for $895. There is also a rare red and a smoky blue that serious collectors chase. Here is your test tonight. Hold the white piece up to a lamp. True Monax has a faint opal glow and a thin band of blue or pink fire right at the edge. And the loss I see most often, someone runs a chipped sweetheart plate through a yard sale for $0.25 because it looked like flimsy old white china. Number 9, Princess. This one hides in more kitchens than you would guess, usually a squat jar at the back of a cabinet. Princess was made by Hawking from 1931 to 1935 in green, pink, and a warm topaz that shades toward apricot. The cookie jar, complete with its matching lid, regularly brings $100 to $200 and more when the lid is perfect. And there is a blue princess so rare, most collectors never see one. But the piece most often faked is the candy dish, so here is your test tonight. Turn it over and look at the foot. A genuine princess foot has crisp panels radiating out like spokes on a wheel. Reproductions have a smooth, lazy foot with none of that detail. Panels mean money. A blank foot means somebody made it yesterday. And here is where it goes wrong. The lid gets chipped or lost, and a jar worth $200 as a pair becomes a $10 box for thumbtacks. Number 8, Sharon, the one collectors call cabbage rose. Big, soft roses circling the rim, made by Federal Glass from 1935 to 1939, in pink, green, and amber. The piece that pays here is the covered butter dish, and this is where you slow down, because it is one of the most faked pieces in all of Depression glass. Your test is the knob on the lid. On a genuine Sharon butter, The knob is so low and flat that you can barely wedge your fingertips under it to lift it. On a reproduction, that knob is a tall little pointed pyramid you can grab easily, and the rim on the base is sharp instead of soft. And one shortcut never fails. Sharon was never made in blue, so a blue cabbage rose butter dish is a modern fake every single time. Number 7. Now I have to slow you down because this is the prettiest test of the night and also the most misunderstood. Take a piece of green depression glass into a dark room and shine an ultraviolet black light on it. Some of it will erupt in a wild neon green glow that seems to pour out from inside the glass itself. It looks like magic. Here is the honest truth. That glow means the glass was made with a tiny amount of uranium, which was common in green and yellow glass before the Second World War. The glow is real, and it does tell you the piece is genuinely old, but it does not tell you the piece is valuable. A $5 green sherbet glows just as brightly as a $500 one. The glow tells you what the glass is made of, not what it is worth. The pattern, the color, the piece, and the condition do that. Run the black light for fun. Just do not let a pretty glow talk you into a bad price. Number 6, Mayfair, also stamped in the books as open rose. Raised roses circling a heavy, elegant shape made by Hawking from 1931 to 1937. Pink is everywhere. But Mayfair in blue is worth real money. Several $100s for the right piece, and Mayfair in green or yellow is so scarce there is almost no such thing as a common one. And then there is the piece that makes veterans go quiet. A footed pink salt and pepper shaker set in Mayfair has been valued at over $9,000, which makes almost every other shaker in this hobby look like pocket change. Your test is color first. Blue, green, or yellow, stop and pay attention. Then beware, because Mayfair has been heavily reproduced. The shakers, the cookie jar, the little whiskey glass, and a cobalt juice pitcher were all faked. If your Mayfair juice pitcher is bright cobalt blue, it is almost certainly new. But before we get to the top 5, there is something almost nobody stops to realize. The pieces that turn out to be worth real money almost never look expensive. They sit at the back of the cupboard in 50-cent box lots, precisely because their owners decided they were just old dishes and moved on. What actually decides value is a small, learnable set of signals: the pattern, the color, the exact piece, the weight in your hand, and whether the lid survived. That is why I put together a guide called the Collector's Field Guide, where I walk through the patterns, the colors, and the reproduction tells that separate a $5 plate from a $1,500 one. It is linked below if you want it. Now back to the rankings. Number 5, Royal Lace. This is the crown jewel of the whole hobby, a delicate lacy scroll made by the Hazel Atlas Glass Company from 1934 to 1941. It came in green, pink, and crystal, but the color collectors lose their minds over is a deep cobalt blue, and that blue was only made from about 1936 to 1941. That short window is exactly why it is so valuable. A cobalt blue covered butter dish in royal lace sold for $689, and cobalt pitchers, cookie jars, and the rare cobalt toddy set climb higher still. Your test is simple. Find that lacy pattern in rich cobalt blue, and you are holding the most sought-after color in depression glass. And the loss? This pattern is thin and the lacy edges chip easily, so run a fingertip around the rim because a single chip on cobalt royal lace can cut its value in half. Number 4, And this one is a warning as much as a treasure. Cherry Blossom, made by Jeanette from 1930 to 1939. It is one of the most beloved patterns ever made. And that is exactly the problem, because it is the single most reproduced pattern in all of depression glass. On genuine cherry blossom, the leaves and cherries look alive, finely drawn. On the fakes, the design looks like a child scribbled it. The cherries are squished into flat circles. The branch looks like a solid bar of glass, and the leaf veins run in fat parallel lines that collectors nicknamed canal leaves. And there are shortcuts that end the argument instantly. Jeanette never made cherry blossom in cobalt or ice blue, so those colors are always fake. Jeanette never made a child's butter dish at all, so if you see one, it is a fraud collectors nicknamed the cherry bomb. And on the real butter lid, there are 3 fine mold lines around the skirt, while the fakes have only 1. Real cherry blossom earns its price. The counterfeit rides on the name and hopes you will not look closely. Number 3 is not a pattern at all. It is a clock hidden in the glass itself, and it is the thread running toward number 1. Turn any piece over and read it with your hands. Most depression glass carries no maker's mark, so you identify it by the pattern, not a signature. Genuine 1930s glass was pressed thin and cheap to save on material, so it feels surprisingly light, and it usually shows faint straw marks, tiny bubbles, and gentle wear rings on the base from decades of use. Reproductions give themselves away. They are noticeably heavier. The pattern is too crisp and mechanical. The base is suspiciously pristine. And sometimes the color is one the factory never even made. A color that never existed in the original is an instant confession. And watch for one specific thing. A small number 76 molded into the base marks a piece from 1976, decades after the real thing. Heft the glass and let the bottom tell you its age. Number 2, and this is the one that quietly costs people the most, because the value is not in a single object. It is in the lid and in keeping the set together. A butter dish base without its domed lid, a cookie jar without its top, a pitcher separated from its matching tumblers is worth a small fraction of the complete piece. The lid is almost always the first thing to break, which is exactly why it is the piece collectors will pay the most to find. Set the lid on the base and look at how the two have aged. The color and the wear should match. A lid that fits but does not truly match is what dealers call a marriage, and it drags the price right back down. In this hobby, more money is lost to a broken-up set than to any reproduction. Someone kept the pretty bowl and threw the chipped lid in the trash and lost the real value with their own hands. Number 1, and it is almost certainly a pattern you already recognize, or your mother did, or you can picture on a shelf at your grandmother's house right now. Madrid, made by Federal Glass, that warm amber glass with a lattice design and little flowers. It was Federal's best-selling line and the most recognized amber pattern there is. Here is the truth that turns this whole video around. Because it was so common and because of what happened next, most Madrid you will ever touch is worth very little. In 1976, for the country's 200th birthday, Federal reissued Madrid under the name Recollection and stamped a small 76 into the base of each piece. That part was honest. But then Federal went bankrupt, and the Indiana Glass Company bought the molds, quietly filed the 76 off, and flooded the market for years in crystal, a paler pink, a harsher blue, and a teal that never existed in the 1930s at all. So the pattern everyone recognizes is the very one most likely to be 40 years younger than it looks. Fame is not value. The thing everyone knows is almost never worth the most because the whole world already has one. So here is your final test. Turn it over. If there is a 76 in the glass, it is a reissue. If it is teal, it was never original. The genuine 1930s amber is worth having. The look-alike on the next table might have been born in the year of the bicentennial. Every piece tonight came down to the same simple habit. The pattern on the front is the story people tell you. The weight, the color, and the marks on the base are where the money actually hides. Everything worth a fortune tonight was plain, familiar, and easy to walk right past. If this made you want to walk straight to your cabinet and start holding your old glass up to the light, do me one favor and like the video. It tells me to keep making these. And if you are not subscribed, that is where the next one lives. The one where we do exactly this for the carnival glass and the milk glass sitting in the same cabinet. Then tell me down in the comments, what is the oldest piece of glass in your house and who did it come from? I read every single one. And do not sell a single piece before you turn it over first.